Okay, so welcome back. And tonight, of course, you're listening to Ebony's Real Talks, and it is not Tuesday. It is our Wednesday show because, I wasn't on Tuesday. But I didn't want you guys to miss out this week, so I brought in a great guest to share a conversation with me and to share some wisdom and knowledge with you guys. And I hope some learning. I hope what you hear tonight, you really will learn something from the conversation and from all the experience that's going to be brought to you. So, Mr. Locario, let me say hi and welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on? How you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. Good to have you. And, I love having guys that come on who talk about stuff with regards to relationships, but it's different when you have someone on who's actually written some books. You put your stuff out there, you put your learning down so people can learn some more about, the whole area of relationships, because we're always learning. Yeah, so great to have you. Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me again.
Yeah, great. Now, Mr. Locario, first people want to know, are you dating, or are you in a relationship, or what's going on for you right now?
Yeah, I just got married in January that just passed. So me and my wife, well, we've been together for about 7 years, and then we just got married this January that just passed and everything like that. So yeah, so I'm a married man now. It's and that's what's going on. That's good. So yeah, ladies out there who are going, yeah, he's off the market. We can still make something happen, we can still make something happen on the side, though. I'm just saying,
Stop. Now, look, you just spoiled it. I was just there going, right, great. You're a man of commitment and integrity.
I'm committed. I am committed to my wife, but, side girls need love, too, There's too many lonely girls in the world.
I hear you. So you've got a few books out, and I mentioned that at the beginning of the show. You have that wonderful book, It's Your Fault You're Single, and I'm like, what the hell's that about? It's your fault you're single? Really? So maybe we'll talk about that book first, because I love some of the chapters. You've got stuff like, do men like the chase? And I guess women will, have different views about that. You've got how to flirt, first date do's and don'ts, which is what we're talking about tonight. What to do if he isn't returning your calls. Yeah, okay. What you do that annoys men. That sounds like an interesting chapter. And you got a fuck buddy is not the same as a boyfriend. Ooh, I think people know that, but
they get it confused.
And then something that women may relate to, how to keep a man.
Right.
So, and that's not all the chapters. I mean, that book has 12 chapters? 12 chapters or more.
And it's a small book. It's an easy read, so it's nothing too difficult.
All right. So tell me more about that book. It's Your Fault You're Single, and why did you write it?
Yeah, well, basically, It's Your Fault You're Single. It's a book for women to basically step up their dating game, because what happens is I notice a lot of books that are for women that teach women, how to get a guy or how to attract men. They kind of tell them stuff that doesn't really work, because they're just saying stuff that sounds cool, but I'd like to really tell women the real deal, to actually make them understand men, so that when they're actually dating men, they have a better understanding of what's really going on instead of misinterpreting certain things. And the reason why I named it It's Your Fault You're Single is because a lot of times, women will self-sabotage themselves. So it's kind of like you had a good guy here, you had a guy that was into you, but, you didn't call him back. You flaked out on the date, so it's like certain things that you're doing that are, messing up the opportunities for yourself, and it's really you that's doing it. It's not necessarily always the guy, because sometimes, you go out with a guy and things don't work out, or you go out with a guy, he doesn't call you back, but then there are a lot of times where you have good guys that actually want to get with you, but you kind of ignore them, or you diss them, or you just not really being proactive in actually seeing them. And that's why, I talk about, like, it's your fault, you're single, not necessarily to, like, blame you, but more of a thing of, like, hey, you can take responsibility for your love life and make things happen the way you want it to happen,
Right, okay. So kind of take me through the book, because I mentioned some of the chapters that I'm interested in, and I want to know more about. But what did you mean in the chapter? What was the focus of the chapter on? Do men like the chase? What's the answer to that? Do men like to be chased?
Right. Well, the thing is, in that chapter, is basically saying, like, men like to know that the situation is progressing. So, like, a lot of women think that the chase, or making a guy chase them, or playing, they think I have to play these games, or like if a guy calls you, you think you have to wait to call him back. They have this book, I don't know if you ever heard about it, called The Rules, and it's like a really big book for women. I think that's like the worst book ever written on relationships ever, because it tells women to play these goofy games that doesn't really work. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a lot of times guys, you don't have to throw yourself on the guy as soon as you meet him, but the thing is that a guy wants to see that there's some sort of progression happening when he's dating you. So if you're going out with a guy, let's say I go out and then, you give him a kiss on the cheek. The next time you see him, he wants to, like, make out with you. The next time he sees you, he wants to, like, go out with you and then get a little bit more physical. Like, there has to be some sort of progression. It can't just be, well, I saw you today and then I tried to call you. I haven't heard from you in 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden you pop up and then I don't see you. You know what I mean? It's like guys don't like that. Guys like the actual quote-unquote chase to be some sort of progression that's actually leading somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So it has to be like in that form, and that's what, guys are more attracted to.
Okay. So if a woman, can a woman actually chase a guy? Can a woman actually, because we've had this conversation on the show about women actually initiating in a relationship and actually going after the guy. Do men like that? Yes,
experience? Of course. We love that. I'm going to tell you, a lot of guys, and this is the thing, I always say there's a difference between what, people say they're going to do and what people actually do. So a lot of times you'll hear guys, they'll say, like, oh, I won't, call a girl back if I had sex with her too quick, or I won't do this, whatever. But guys, we actually like when a woman is being assertive and showing that she's interested, because then that's less work for us to do. You know what I'm saying? So if we're into you and we know that you're into us, then it's great. So I always tell women, like, there's nothing wrong with you being assertive and actually going up to a guy, starting a conversation, and talking to him and really making that move. A lot of women think they have to be passive all the time and they have to wait for the guy to come up to them. So, and then a lot of women miss out on opportunities to get with certain guys because they think this is the way it has to be, and it doesn't have to be that way. You can go and talk to guys if you want.
Okay. So how do you, there is a concept out there amongst women that if we chase you, if we're chasing a guy down or pursuing him, that, it will look like, we're a little bit desperate. It could also put a guy off, so this is why women don't do it, okay? Because, he wants to be the man, he wants to be proactive in kind of making the relationship happen. So how do you, get away from that when you've got women who have that view already? How do we move away from that to what you're talking about? Because I think a lot of women would be like, really? I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? When it's going to make a man think I'm needy, I've got issues, or, how's it going to work for me? Do you get what I'm saying?
Right. Well, the thing is, this is like, it's not something where if you meet a guy, you don't want to be calling him 20 times a day and, showing up at his job or whatever. I'm not talking about that type of stuff. But let's say if you're at a party, or let's say you're even in the street or whatever, and you see a guy that you want to talk to, there's nothing wrong with going up to him and talking to him. The only thing that you need to understand is, especially if you're approaching a guy in the street, because I teach women how to approach men too. So if you're approaching a guy in the street, you have to I always tell women to say this line in whatever they're talking about. I always tell women to say, I usually don't do this, because let's say, for example, you meet a guy in the street and you want to talk to him. You say, hey, how you doing? Listen, I usually don't do this, but I thought you were attractive, and I wanted to come and say hi. I wanted to give you my number. And the reason why you say I usually don't do this is because guys are not used to that, and they might think something's weird if a woman does that. You see what I'm saying? So it's a certain way you have to approach a woman, approach a guy, as if you're a woman, to make that situation go a little bit more smoothly, because a lot of guys might be looking at it like, what's going on? But the benefits of this is that a lot of times you might be the only woman in his life that has ever approached him. You see what I'm saying? So already you stand out beyond any other woman that's ever approached him. And this is what I always try to tell women, is the thing that differentiates you from other women is how different you are from other women. And a lot of women, unfortunately, go by the same rules. They do the same exact thing, and you don't stand out. And this is why a lot of guys might just have sex with you and leave. A lot of guys might not be as attentive. It's because there's nothing about you that is unique and different. You kind of follow the same type of guidelines that other women have been following. And this is why I say it's good to actually go out there and approach men and actually do that different thing that's going to make you stand out.
Okay. So is it only about approaching in that way, saying that, or are there other ways that women could stand out? Because I think most women are thinking that guys out there see them very much in the same way. I mean, in fact, I know a lot of sisters who've given up on dating. They've stepped away from the whole dating saga. The reason being that they think immediately that, if they try to go out there and date guys, that men already have this perception that women are a certain way, and so they treat them that way. And it's like you're fighting against the grain to stand out and to be treated differently. How do you do that as a woman from a man's point of view? How do you do that?
Right. Well, first the thing is, you have to really be comfortable with yourself, and that's the thing. A lot of women are not comfortable with who they are because this is the thing. Every person is an individual. You understand? And then you're this woman or this man from this place. So let's say we're talking about women. You're this woman, but your name is Jane Smith. But the thing is, you're Jane Smith. You have to tap into who Jane Smith is before you tap into just being a woman. Because a lot of times, what women do is that they go off of what they think they're supposed to do because they're a lady. They're like, well, I'm a lady. I shouldn't go and talk to this guy. I'm a lady. I should wait until this happens. So when you start doing that, the real you doesn't come out. So you have to tap into who you are and be comfortable with that. So once you're comfortable with yourself, then you have no problem, talking to a guy that you're interested in and let him know that you're interested. Because the thing is, if a man is interested in you, it doesn't matter if he came up to you or you came up to him. The fact is he's interested in you and he wants to see you. Because I guarantee you, if you tell most guys, if you had a woman that looked like Beyonce or Kim Kardashian approach a guy and he's attracted to her, he's not going to say, well, I was attracted to her and then I was going to go out with her, but then she came up to me and said something and it totally turned me off. Like, guys, we don't think that way. We'll be excited that a woman that we're attracted to actually came up to us and actually, took the initiative. We're not going to brush her away. And this is why I said there's a difference between what people say they're going to do and what they actually do, because a lot of what women are thinking that guys are going to be like, put off by this, is a lot of social programming. But the thing is that when the situation actually happens, the guy is like, wow, I'm actually, glad that this woman I'm attracted to is even talking to me right now. Because sometimes he might have been, nervous to talk to you because he thought you were so cute or whatever, and then the fact that you're coming up to him, it's like, wow, this is great, so let's make this happen. You know what I'm saying? So it all starts with women kind of just being comfortable with themselves and actually putting themselves out there. And, you got to, it's something that takes practice because a lot of women aren't used to this. So it's something that it might not happen overnight, but once you get used to being comfortable in those situations to do that, then you'll have better relationships because you're actually choosing those guys actively instead of having to wait for men to approach you or men or, to pick whoever approached you. You know what I'm saying? So it always goes back to the women. Right.
Yeah, waiting for it to be chosen.
Right, and this is why the book is called "It's Your Fault You're Single," because it's up to you to make all these things happen. And women have been taught for years and years, just wait for the guy to do it, just wait for the guy to do it. And especially nowadays, guys aren't as aggressive today as they used to be. So sometimes you might see a guy you're interested in, and he's not going to come and approach you. like he would have a couple of years ago. So it's like, if you want him, you got to say something in some cases. You understand? And don't think it's just the man's job to do it. You see what I mean? So,
yeah, I hear that.
So
I hear that. So I've got a question about another chapter in your book, number 4, chapter number 4, which is first date do's and don'ts. Okay.
Right.
Now, for the ladies out there, because I think this book is more aimed at women, wasn't it? Or is it both?
Yeah, it's for women. This whole book is for women. It's for you.
All right, it's mainly for women. So for the ladies out there, particularly ladies who haven't dated in a while, okay, and want to get out there and date again, well, on a first, what are the kind of do's that you suggest and the don'ts that you suggest?
Right. Well, some of them I was talking about. I was saying, to stay positive and be yourself. Because a lot of times women get kind of like, they get nervous. They're kind of like, they're not really truly being themselves and being who they are. Because the thing is, a guy really wants to know who you are and what you're about. And that's what makes him want to go out on a second date with you. Because, you could be cute and everything, but that's not the thing that's going to make the relationship last if you want something to last. So it's kind of like he needs to see what you're about. And the thing is that if you're truly being yourself, you're going to attract guys who are right for you. A lot of times you attract the wrong people because you're not being yourself. And so then you start attracting whatever you projected. And whatever you projected is not yourself, therefore you can't attract the right person. You see what I'm saying? So I always tell women to really, be themselves and be positive about that. And also, in the do's, I was saying, to stay focused on your date, because a lot of times, I remember I was on a date one time and this girl, she was like texting on her phone, and I was just like, hey, what are you doing? And it's kind of like disrespectful. It's just like, we're supposed to be here, getting to know each other, enjoying each other's company, and if you're, checking your Facebook updates every 2 seconds while, you're out, it's kind of like you're not really present in the moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And another real important thing I say is for women to dress sexy. I stress this a lot. I don't know why women think that dressing less sexy is better. You dress as sexy as you can. Men are visual creatures. We want to see how sexy you are. That's gonna, it entices us to be like, okay, wow, like I'm actually sexually attracted to this woman, which is important, because a lot of times women, they'll say, well, I want a guy to like me for my mind, but he's not going to get to your mind unless he, in most cases, likes your body. That's just how men work in most cases. You know what I'm saying? And and I guess,
are we talking? Let me stop you there. Are we talking about obviously sexy? Should they be like showing the boobs? Have a really short skirt on, or are you saying, discreetly sexy? Because there are different ways to be sexy, aren't there?
Right. Right. Well, of course you have to do what you're comfortable with, but the thing is, women have this thought that they'll say, well, I don't want to dress, I don't want to show cleavage, or I don't want to dress this way because I don't want this man to get the wrong idea. And what you got to understand about guys is we are always thinking that. Even if you're wearing a turtleneck and you're covered up, we're still thinking of you sexually. But the thing is that if you're covered up and if we can't really see what's going on, if we can't, if we don't see that sexiness and that vibe going on, it's not as strong of a connection that he's going to have with you if you're not, dressing that way. You understand? And this is why it's so kind of like difficult to even discuss these things, because I coach men and women, and I always tell people that coaching women, in my experience, is harder than coaching men, because women have been taught a whole bunch of BS for years. So I have to kind of like reprogram the mind and get the nonsense out, and really tell them what's really going on. And guy, because I always say like this: go into any 15 to 20-year-old's room that has posters on his wall, or he has like a poster on his desktop. You will never see a man with a poster of a woman with a turtleneck and a jacket on and her legs covered up. It's always a woman in a bikini. It's always a woman showing her body. Do you understand what I'm saying? So men are telling you what they like. You see what I mean? So you have to understand that, and that's the thing you got to know, that's what men like. It's not about, this whole thing, well, I don't want him to think this way. Men are thinking that way anyway, and they want to see what you have. So it's not a bad thing to be as sexy as you can, because that's only going to help you. That's what I try to tell women. You know what I mean?
Okay. I hope the ladies are listening. I'd love to hear your point of view. Do you believe, this is right for you, or would you have an issue with doing exactly what my guest is saying, dressing very sexually on your first date? Because we're talking about a first date, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's your advice. So I'm gonna take that on board, and I'm just putting it out to the ladies. Do they agree? Okay. But I hear what you say about resistance.
Right.
Some women will be like, I ain't doing that. I'm not encouraging sex. Okay, because I think sometimes there is a thought with women that, okay, if I'm dressed too sexually, then I'm calling the sex on before the person tries to get in touch with my mind. And I think that may be where some of the resistance is coming from. I could be wrong, but I think that could be why some women may be resistant.
Right, but also too, I always tell women that your physical body is also a part of you. A lot of women say, well, I want a guy to get to know me. You are also your body. You understand what I'm saying? Like, guys, you understand, like, we need to get to know that part also. Because the thing is that, like, everyone is kind of like an indirect competition with other people. I always try to say, like, there's really no competition because you're an individual and all this other stuff, but we're sort of always in indirect competition, objectively. So what that means is that if you're going out with a guy, that guy you went out with is probably going out with 4 or 5 other women. So if one of those women are dressed sexier than the other ones, that woman has his attention more than you had his attention. You see what I'm saying? So it's and this is the thing that women aren't taught. This is the thing that guys, we don't let women know this, because a lot of times guys, especially in the society, we're kind of trying to go along with what women are doing or what women are saying, just to kind of like, get in your good graces. So a guy isn't going to say, hey, I really like when a woman is showing her cleavage, because he knows that that's not what you want to hear. He's going to say what he thinks you want to hear. And what you want to hear is what you've been taught. This is why it's kind of like you got to, really understand the dating game. You know what I'm saying? And this, again, it goes back to the title of the book, It's Your Fault You're Single, because I always tell people everything that you want in life, everything that you want to get in life is your responsibility. It's not anybody else's. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always have a lot of women who will say, I've had many women say, I wish you would teach these guys how to be more mature and get a wife and marry us. And I always tell women, it's not a man's job to marry you. That's not most guys' objective. So I say, if you want to get married, what you need to do is that you need to find a guy who's ready for that type of relationship. So it's still up to you to find that guy. It's not up to the guy to be that for you if that's not where he's at. You see what I'm saying? So it's still up to everybody to get where they want to get.
Okay. I think that's fair enough. Okay. If anybody has a question in my chat room, feel free to put the question in the chat room. Just say hi to you guys. Hi, DABoo1, guest 2607, guest 2792. Welcome, guys, to the show. Now, there's another bit of those are some of the do's and don'ts, of the first date, right?
Right.
So do dress sexually if you're a woman as much as you can. Be confident, be yourself, right? Any real don'ts that a woman should pay attention to on a first date?
I would say don't say what you're not going to do. Because, and I wrote this in a book, and, a lot of times when you tell guys what you don't do, it's a turn-off, because it's kind of, you're coming from a negative aspect. And a lot of women do this online, too, when they do online dating, where if a guy reads your profile, and you'll say, I don't go out with guys who do this, or I'm not the type of girl who's going to, it's like, we don't want to hear that. We want to hear, what are you about? What do you really do? Because that's more in the direction of what we're interested in. Like, I remember I went on a date with this one girl, and this was like years ago, and she was like, oh, I don't kiss guys on the first date. And it's like, even if that's what you don't do, we don't need to hear that, because it's kind of like a turnoff to us. It's like, oh my goodness, she's already being standoffish about who she is. You know what I'm saying, or what she's gonna do or not do. So I always tell women, keep that to yourself. You don't have to kiss the guy on the first date, but you don't have to make that announcement. You know what I'm saying? Another thing, always say don't bring your friends. Sometimes girls bring their friends on dates because they're nervous about seeing the guy. And I always say, if you're nervous about seeing the guy, you should not be seeing him. You should work on that until you're ready to go out on a date. You know what I'm saying? And also, don't talk about your ex. Don't keep him waiting. A lot of times women will be late, or they'll keep the guy waiting. The guy might meet them at their house, and then she's taking a long time to get ready, or she's supposed to meet him somewhere. She comes like 20 minutes to half an hour late. So, it's just respectful to really respect people's time and be there on time. You know what I'm saying? And guys, we look at these things. And that's the reason a lot of times women don't get called back for a second date, or things don't, a guy might, keep calling you, and then he'll get with you, and then y'all have sex, and he never calls again, is because certain things that you were doing told him in his mind, like, yeah, this is not the type of girl I really want to stay with because she's doing A, B, C, and D. You see what I'm saying? But a lot of guys aren't going to express that to you. They're just going to not call you again, and you're going to just wonder, like, why, what happened? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear that. Any other don'ts that we should consider?
I'd say don't talk about, like, long-term things with this guy. Like, it's the first date, don't start talking about, hey, what are we going to, I want you to meet my mom in next month because she's coming into town. Don't talk about the future yet. Just enjoy the moment, because once you start doing that, the guy looks at it as, oh, you're trying to, like, lock him down already. You know what I mean? So don't really talk in those terms. You know what I'm saying? And also I say, don't focus on political issues, because a lot of times when you start conversations, and this depends on the person you're with, because sometimes you could do this, but generally don't focus on heavy topics like that, because then people start to get, emotional about their views on things, and then that kind of kills the vibe of the date. Because if you say, well, I like this and I like that, and then y'all arguing about this thing, and then now it's like, well, I don't like you because you like this politician or this stance on this, and it's kind of like, it sucks, because you sort of don't get to know the whole person, at that time. And then later on, if you found that out about this person, that wouldn't be such a big deal. Because the thing is, when we go on first dates, we kind of sort of see certain little things and we blow them up. And then now it's a big deal now, and I don't want to call you again. He doesn't want to call me again. It's like, it's ridiculous. So kind of keep it light, keep it, fun and everything on the first date,
Okay. All right. So are there any particular things you could talk about on a first date? So I know what I shouldn't talk about, but are there any particular things that really work for men on a first date in terms of a conversation?
Yeah, I think mostly I think the best thing always is to talk about, what you like, what you're about, like what do you do what do you do for hobbies, what are your favorite movies, what do you so and have it like a back and forth, because then it's kind of like you kind of get this, the guy gets this sense of, the type of girl you are, not only through your words, but just like how, your body language, how you're interacting with him. And when you keep it just positive and light and cool, you know what I'm saying, and just actually talk about things that you're excited about. Like, let's say if you are a woman who, likes to go to the gym a lot, or if you have a hobby of, I don't know, cooking cookies or something, whatever it is, so he gets an idea of who you are. And then he sees that and he says, okay, wow, I actually like the fact that she's, interesting beyond her looks. Because a lot of times what guys do is that we'll think you're cute, and then in our head we're designating, well, she's cute enough to have sex with, but I don't know if I want to see her again. You know what I'm saying? But then when you add on what you're about, and this is where the guy gets into your mind, and this is why, this is the point where you're actually telling him, what you're about. So it's a combination. So let's say if you're dressed real sexy, this guy's like, wow, this girl's looking really good. Then on top of that, you're telling him stuff, and you're, telling him what you're about in a positive way, and not talking about, what you won't do and what you hate and all that. You don't have to get into all that. You talk about, positive stuff. Then that makes him say, wow, I actually want to see her again because I think she's beautiful, and she has things going for herself. She actually likes to do certain things. She has, interesting things to talk about. You see what I'm saying? And the thing is that the guy who's right for you, the guy who's, into you, he's going to want to keep seeing you because now he's seeing who the real you is. And a lot of times, if you go on dates and you dress, covered up because you think you don't want a guy to have a wrong idea, or you kind of withhold information about, like, your passions and desires because you don't want him to know too much, or you think you might be embarrassed to tell him that you like to sew or something, or whatever it is, then he's not really getting the real you. So it's really just about, really putting yourself out there and showing him who you really are, and that's what attracts the guys to you and makes the guys want to, stick around.
Okay. Just to say, people, I'm going to allow you to have some questions, but I'm just trying to get as much out of my guest as possible because I know he's going to leave me in about 20 minutes because he's got to go to something else. So we're just trying to learn as much as we can from Mr. Locario, but he's definitely going to be back. He's going to do another show with me, right?
Oh, of course.
So we're going to get more, and there's so much more to learn. And of course, there are 3 books, and we're only talking about 1 book right now. So the book, if you've just joined us, that we're talking about is It's Your Fault You're Single. Some people would agree with that. Some people may not agree with that. But we have some interesting chapters that we've been talking about. Do men like the chase? And we're talking about first date do's and don'ts right now. But I think I wanted to move to something else, and, I will allow people to come in and call in, give me any questions they have for my guest in a bit. But I do want to get to this little chapter that I'm really interested in. So you've gone on this first date with someone, okay, and you may even have got a second date. Everything seems fine. And what happens if he isn't returning your calls? So you're calling him, he's not responding. What is going on? And that's happened to me before. But I won't tell you what I did, but that happened before. I was like, goodbye. See you later.
Right.
But, what do you do? Because women do find that, that you can be connecting with someone. It's going really well. You have a few dates, whatever, everything seems to be hunky-dory. You're talking all night, maybe on the phone, and suddenly everything dries up. Like, no conversation. We cannot hear from this other person. And, women are like, what is that? What's going on? So what do you think is going on if a guy isn't returning a woman's calls?
Well, a lot of times, there's certain things that are going on behind the scenes that you're not going to really know of. So, for example, sometimes guys won't call you back because they already have a girlfriend, and you didn't know this. You know what I'm saying? So they kind of lied to you and said, yeah, girl, I'm single, let's go out, let's have a good time. And you're having a good time with them, and then you don't hear back from them because they had a girlfriend, and the girlfriend was probably out of town or whatever. They was just, they just wanted to hang out with another woman, so you're just not going to hear from him again because he has a woman. Another reason, though, also is sometimes, you don't get a call back from guys is because he never really liked you in the first place. So what happens is you might go on a date with a guy, and let's say you go out on the first date, you might even go out on a second date or even a third date, and he's waiting to have sex with you, and then he has sex with you, and then he never calls you again. And he's just like, what happened? And then it's because he never really liked you, because guys, we don't need to like you to have sex with you. So we'll still, keep seeing you until we get the sex and then never call back. You know what I'm saying? So that, that could also be another thing. You know what I'm saying? And also sometimes, guys, there's a lot of guys who will go out with women just for sport, meaning they want to see how many women they can get to, have sex with or just go out with. And that was their goal. It wasn't really to really get to know you or to see you that much. It was just more like a notch on his belt. So some guys, they have sex for sport, so they might just do you and never call you again because that was it. That was his goal, to just have sex with you, or just to, hang out with you for a while and get you all riled up. You know what I'm saying? So these things, these are certain things that happen,
But what if you're going out with a guy, you're not having sex with him, right? Okay, you've had a few dates. And, you're just doing the I'm getting to know you thing. and then he's not returning your calls. Is that because he hasn't had sex, or what's going on?
That could be it also. It can be it also, because sometimes if you don't have sex with him, you know, let's say if you went out with a guy for like 2 or 3 times, and then another 4th time you went out with him, and so he's saying like, okay, I've been seeing this girl. We went out a couple times, no sex is happening, so I'm going to move on. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes what happens is, and this is what I was saying before. You remember when I said that your body is also part of you? So what a lot of women do is they try to go out with a guy and say, hey, I want to get to know him, and I want him to get to know me so we can connect and, you know, all this other stuff. But if he's not connecting with you physically, he's not really getting to know the whole you. So sometimes if you're not connecting physically, it makes him lose interest. So this is why, you know, I always tell women you got to understand, you know, that aspect of the game where sometimes the fact that you're not being physical with him, you understand, it's going to turn him off even more, because you're only giving him half of who you are, which is, you know, hanging out and talking with him. You see what I'm saying? So it has to be a combination of both. You see what I mean? So sometimes that's the reason why you'll go out with a guy and y'all keep going out. And then even sometimes guys will try to actually get physical with you. Like, you know, I've you know, heard stories with some women that I coach, and they'll be like, yeah, he was like trying to kiss me, but I moved my face. Or he was trying to like come into my apartment, and I told him maybe later. So it's like the guys are like showing you like, I want to get physical with you, but then you're making him wait because, you know, of what most women have been taught. They think they've been taught, well, you know, you got to make a guy wait, because if you do him quickly, he's not going to respect you and all that other nonsense. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, she makes him wait, and then it backfires on her because she wasn't having sex with him, and now he lost interest. You see what I'm saying? So that goes down.
And there's the other side to that. If he loses interest that quickly, was he ever into you really in the first place? Because if it's just like, okay, I didn't get it, so I'm moving on, right? Mm-hmm. Then is that it? Is that all you were interested in? That's going to be the question, isn't it?
But that's the thing. You will never know unless you have sex with him. This is why I always okay. Like for example, if I'm rich, right, and me and you are going out, and I say, you know, I wonder if Ebony Empress is with me because I have money. Does she really like want to hang out with me, or is it just because of my money? I have to give all my money away to charity. And then if you come back and call me and want to see me, then it wasn't really my money. It was more so me. So what I tell women is that, you know, if you might be like, well, is he just trying to have sex with me, or does he like me? You have to have sex with him to find out. You're never going to know. You see what I mean? But that should
hold on. So,
right.
So you're telling women to, now hold on, I'm just trying to get this, okay?
Right.
I'm trying to get this. So you're telling women, have sex with the guy so that he gets to know you, right? Now, he decides, actually, no, this doesn't work for me, so he moves on, and then it's next, right? So how many men are you going to sleep with before you find the one? Because, like, if you're just sleeping with men to find out if they like you, come on, is that
No,
good?
No, that's not, I'm not saying any of that at all. What I'm saying is women need to date men and go out with men that they like. If you like him, right, and you're sexually attracted to him, you will want to have sex with him, right? So let's say y'all do have sex, and he doesn't call you again. Because either one or two things are going to happen. You're going to have sex, and he's not going to call you again, or you're going to have sex, and he's going to call you again. Those are the two options, right? But the thing is that instead of women actually going out with guys that they like and, you know, being with them and actually doing what they want as far as sex, being, you know, sexually, what a lot of women do is that they kind of get with the guy and they start to act depending on what they think is going to happen. So a woman might be with the guy she likes and she says, well, I want to have sex with him, but I'm not, because if I do, he might just leave. And so she's basing all of her decisions off of what she thinks might happen instead of what she wants to happen. Or what she wants to do. So what I tell women is go out with guys you like and enjoy the time you have with them, because if you have sex with a guy and you like them, you just had sex with a guy you liked and you had that experience, and it should be a good experience if you like the guy. Now, if he doesn't call you back, then that's that's the part of the dating game. It's you know, that's what I call a woman's rejection. Women, they'll reject you after the sex. You know, like a guy, that's like the same thing if a guy said, how do I know if this girl really likes me? You know, I want to know if she likes me before I go and approach her. You can't know unless you go approach the woman. You have to talk to her, see if she's into you. It's the same thing for women when it comes to men. If she wants to know if this guy is really into her just beyond the sex,
the only way you're going to know is by having sex. But what I'm saying is I'm not saying just have sex, just to figure those things out. I'm saying have sex with the guy you like because you actually like him, period. Whatever happens after that happens. You can't, and that's what I want to tell women is that you can't sit there and actually, try to micromanage, these type of situations. A guy who really likes you, he's going to call you back regardless. If he, of course, if he doesn't have a girlfriend or whatever. But if there's a single guy and he's into you, if he has sex with you and he likes you, he's going to call you back. That's the end of the story. But the thing is, women have to not have that fear of thinking, well, should I have sex with him? Should I not have sex with him? Should I do this? You have to do what's truly in your heart and what you truly want to do, because it's all about the moment. Because you can have sex with this great guy and never see him again, or you can have sex with this great guy and that guy can end up being your man and end up being your husband. You never know. But you can't go into the game with fear.
I guess, yeah, but I guess the odds for women, are great, because if I did that, the question in a woman's mind is, right, how many men, because given how it is right now out there, and I guess you're married now, so you would have been out there dating, okay? There's a lot of people that aren't dating in the sense of looking for someone serious. There's a lot of people out there dating and wanting sex straight up. That's the first thing on their list, right? Now, for a woman who says, right, look, I don't want too many people in my body, it's like, how many people are you going to say yes to before you find the one? And, okay, you've got to kiss a few frogs, but when everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, that's wrong, but a large number of men out there are not seriously dating. They're like men in a sweet shop, and it's a numbers game. For a woman, that's a scary task to trust that men will, have their best interests at heart, and that's why you're getting the resistance. The women are like, no, hey, no, I can't afford to do that. Because I say yes to you, tomorrow you change your mind. I then have to look again. I have to be out there again. And, I say yes to before I find the right one.
And exactly what you explained is the dating game. And this is why, again, why I titled the book, It's Your Fault You're Single, because until you realize that, until you know that that's part of it, it's going to be hard for it to work out for you, because you're going to be going based off of fear instead of you going based off of what you're trying to do. And real quick, I want to say also is that, a lot of times what happens, and for what you were saying, like, how do you go out with all these guys, because you don't want to just be having sex willy-nilly. But the thing is that a lot of women exhaust themselves, and a lot of women have so much frustration because there's so many women out here who will go out with guys and see guys and go out on dates with men who they're not into in the first place. You understand? Because they might be lonely, they might be bored. So if you limit the amount of guys you go out with, imagine every guy you went out with was a guy you were just incredibly attracted to and was excited to be on a date with. If you were to do that, you understand what I'm saying? Then the thing is that you're more likely to be yourself and to you're actually being yourself and you're doing your thing, and then you're going to attract those guys who actually want to be with you, and then you have a better chance of getting that guy. A lot of times, the reason why it's so hard for women is because the resistance, but also on top of that, dealing with men who they don't really, who they're not really into, which is wasting time and energy. So then it's like, it's coupled with that plus the other guys that they like, and it becomes too much. So if you just limit it to who you like and actually be with them, and then let's say, for example, you actually want to have sex with this guy, because a lot of times women go out on dates with dudes and they're really into them and they really want to have sex with them, have sex with him and have a good time. You understand? Because that's going to get you closer to finding that dude. See, if you actually went out with guys who you really like, instead of it being 20 guys you had to see, it'd probably be 3 or 2, because then those 3 or 2 are the ones you really like. So if you limit it to the ones you really like, it wouldn't have to be you going out and feeling like I have to have sex with the whole country. You know what I'm saying?
I hear that. So maybe be quite discerning and look for that guy you really do like.
Right, and be a little bit more selective.
Be sure that you have what you say, you know, that you feel what you feel, and that there is something that you need to work with before you go putting it out there.
Right.
Because I would totally then agree with one of my ladies who's just sent me a message. She just said, I'm not wasting numbers on that odds, those odds, okay? And she says, then you get BS, people asking you about your numbers. That's guys asking you how many people have you slept with. And unless it's 2, you won't get. You won't get.
See, and that's another thing. I'm telling you, a lot of guys are so. Let me tell something to women right now. Like, ladies, stop listening to men who try to shame you for having sex. Just seriously, like, those aren't the guys for you. If you're dealing with a guy and, you know, he asks you, how many people you had sex with? And then you say, I had sex with 16 people, and he's like, oh my God, that's crazy. That guy's not the right guy for you. You understand? Move on to the next guy. You want a guy who's going to appreciate and who's mature enough to appreciate who you are, because men who believe that it's wrong for women to have sex, or if a woman is crazy if she's had all these sex partners, he's naive. He's an idiot. Because the thing is with women are offered sex generally more than guys. So it's impossible for most women to sit there and say, well, yeah, I only had sex with one guy, which is BS. We know this, but a guy's insecurity is making him shame you into thinking that there's something wrong with you for doing this. And those aren't the guys you need to mess with anyway. You got to mess with guys who are mature enough to know that this is how it goes. This is what it is. This is life. You know what I'm saying? And that's really what it is. Like, and again, that's another thing of fear. It's like women have to stop being fearful about how they go about the dating game. Like, don't be scared to express who you are. Don't be scared to approach guys. Don't be scared to have sex with a guy you really want to have sex with out of fear that he might not call you, because guess what? That's going to happen. You can't get away from that. There's no way you're going to know if this guy you're about to have sex with is going to call you again. There's no way. You can't know it. You're saying it's not going to happen. So it's kind of like you're wasting time worrying about nothing. So the thing is, enjoy the moment you have with that guy, because it might be your last, or it can be the start of something that can last forever. You understand? But you don't know. You just have to go with it if that's what you want to do.
Well, I'm going to thank you for putting so much out there. We've talked a bit tonight about some of that book you've written, which I really am fascinated with. It's Your Fault You're Single. And I'm sure my listeners have got a view on it, but I know that you've got to step away because you've got another engagement.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold you to coming back because people will have questions for you, definitely.
Definitely, let me know.
Go out and check out the book, okay? And then, maybe next week, I'm holding Mr. Locario to next week. We'll have you back on Tuesday when we can talk more. But I know there's somebody that wants to come in and ask you a question. There's a couple of people actually who want to ask you questions. Do you have time for a couple of questions, or at least one?
Yeah, I got another good 10 minutes that I can.
All right, okay. 30. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing?
Hello?
This is Q. Hey, how you doing? This is Q. Quick question. Quick question. What is the purpose now for, and I don't want to be facetious, this is a real question. What do you perceive the purpose now is for guys to get married other than religion and you're supposed to? What is the benefit now for guys getting married? The only reason I ask that is because now dating, most of us guys understand women are picking on what they see, the way guys used to. And the skinny nerdy guy used to not get no play.
Right.
And so now he's still a shallow dude, but he works out and he looks like he has swag, but not necessarily. So real talk. What is the real reason now for us to be dedicated and loyal? Because it seems like a lot of ladies don't have the caliber of what they're seeking.
Right.
So talk to me.
Right. No, I totally see. The thing is, as far as like marriage and all this other stuff, they're really truthfully, there really is no, you don't need to get married. I was actually just talking to somebody about this other day. There's no real purpose for it to even go down. If you want to get married, that should be something that's, a specific thing for you and that person that you're with. But a lot of times what people do is they get married because of societal pressure. They get married because they had a kid together. They get, you know what I mean? So it's like all these different reasons as to why people are getting married. And like what you were saying, a lot of women want to get married, but a lot of women are not displaying themselves as marriage material, meaning they don't display certain things that would show that they would be a good wife. This is why you have a lot of times a woman will be in a relationship with a guy for years and years and years, and then they still won't get married because he doesn't see her as that type of woman. And on top of that, a lot of the benefits that are, that come from marriage, the guy technically doesn't get it. And if there isn't a divorce, women kind of get all those benefits and the guy kind of loses. So it's kind of like that's why you got to kind of be careful as a man, to make sure if you are getting married, you're marrying the right woman. You see what I'm saying? And if a woman wants to get married, she has to display that she is a woman who would be a good wife. You see what I mean? So.
Absolutely. My last follow-up question for that, since you answered the way that I was already thinking.
Hey.
Okay, dating. There's a lot of ladies who, let's be honest, the whole weight thing. Yeah, there's a lot of guys who are not perfect. But you know what's so amazing to me? I happen to work out, but you know what amazes me? The ladies who have, less than 30% of what they asking for. And then along comes somebody who is non-urban. And they might not be better for us, but they're working out, they're presenting themselves as demure. That's a lost word nobody uses anymore. and they're doing all these things that are very feminine. And then when we look at the urban woman, especially the businesswoman, she's built like a linebacker. Why is there an expectation in the dating world for the guy to be this, that, and the third, but the lady is subpar? Talk to me.
Right. No, that's the real talk. That is the real talk. Let me tell you why. Because the thing is that for a long time when we look at dating, right, the guy traditionally was looked upon as to basically do everything. But this comes, this goes back to way back in the day where, there weren't that many women working, women were more housewives, so the guy had to pretty much, fit the bill for everything and do everything. But nowadays it's different, but we still have the same old values. So it's a different time, but it's still the old values in certain things. And certain old values is good because I like the whole wife and kids thing and I'm the husband or whatever. But the thing is that it's easier for women to be subpar because generally we don't expect women to technically do anything up front. So, for example, if a guy is going out on a date with a woman, he has to approach her, he has to talk to her, he has to get her number, he has to call her, he has to set the date, he has to plan out where they're going to go, and then you say, okay, what does the woman have to do in this situation besides show up? You know what I'm saying? So that's the energy that goes along with it. So a woman technically doesn't need to, generally speaking or objectively speaking, bring that much to the table up front. So as a lot of times we look at women as, she's a beautiful woman, we'll say, well, she's hot, and you're going to have a whole bunch of guys who are going to gravitate to her. But if you're a guy, a woman needs to know what you're doing for work, how much money you're making, this and this and that. So it's all these other things that are put on men to be seen as value, when a woman, all she really has to do is be cute. You see what I'm saying? Up front. That's like the first thing. So that's why it's, the subpartness is accepted. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm going to mute myself, but I just want to make this statement for the sake of the conversation y'all been having. I believe in love. I'm very romantic, the whole nine.
Right.
But the reality is most people. Yeah, absolutely. I'm here in Atlanta, and I'm going to tell you, it's not the caliber of women like when I was in England. And I think that's because the character and how easy it is for women out here. They can rely on government daddy for a lot of their things. Like it's no wonder you can get a degree if you got government daddy taking you through half of your life.
Right, exactly.
But it's like, my thing is this. Most of the good guys don't even try anymore. They're building their businesses. They're off doing their thing. They dealing with somebody that's allowing them to come home and have their mind at ease. Miss I want to be heard. That's why it's hard for her to date other races, because Miss I want to be heard can't get that in a Jewish relationship, Asian relationship. Grandma's going to turn and look at her and say, "Why is that black woman talking? Why is she speaking?" and you know what? As a matter of fact, Elle, you should. I mean, I know you're trying to keep it candy, but you should put some vegetables on the table and talk about that, because a lot of people think it's so easy for urban people to go to the other side. The other side don't want all that vocalized, I want to be heard stuff. They want you to be, hey, look, a certain way, just like XYZ. But I'm going to mute myself and listen.
That's a good point, though. You know what I mean?
That's probably a good point, and it's probably a good thing to mute yourself sometimes, because sometimes nobody agrees with you. But I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting, the points you raised. I just wonder what the ladies out there think, and if they agree with you. And I'm seriously, listening to what you're saying. I think there's some imbalance in what you say, because I guess there'll be women out here who will say they have a similar experience, that they find it hard to find the right person, and that they bring a lot to the table, and they're working hard. They're not being, looked after by the government, and they haven't got their hand held out to every guy that may want to date them. So, but those women are not showing themselves because they feel like it's very hard to find genuine, real people out there. So, I think, we can both accuse the other side of not shaping up or being in the right mindset for what you want. But I hear it on both sides. So that's what I'm saying. I think that's one opinion. I think women will have their own.
Right. Well, the thing too is also, I think it's not, that's what I was saying up front, like when you do the service, like when it's first dates or when it's, at the beginning, it's, we're socialized to act that way. So, it's as far as like guys feeling like they need to do everything and women feeling like, well, I just got to sit back and wait. And that's what's making relationships harder, because it's, there is that imbalance going on where it's like, well, you're the man, you should do all of this, and you're the woman and you should do this. And it's like, no, you have to say, who am I, and what do I want, and then say, okay, I want this and I want that and I want to make this happen, and then you go and make that happen, no matter if you're a man or a woman. Because earlier I was saying, a lot of women will come up to me and say, can you help these guys be the type of guys that we want? And I'm saying, no, that's not going to happen. I need to help you find the guy you want. I can't. It's like you can't change, these people. You have to actively go out and find what you want. You know what I mean? And that's what the book is about. You know what I'm saying?
I hear that. I know I've got Mike on as well. Mike, your mic is open. Did you want to ask a question or make a comment? Mike? Okay, Mike's gone quiet.
Mike left.
Ebony. Yeah, how you doing, Ebony?
Yeah. Hi, I'm good. I know you've been patiently waiting to say something. Did you want to make a comment or ask a question of Locario?
Well, I was hearing what the other gentleman was asking him, and it's amazing how people try to look, and other cultures say a woman can't talk and she should be quiet. Well, that's cultures. You got to realize, and I agree with what he was talking about. You cannot mix or try to have a traditional relationship the way traditionally it is. And when people speak of other cultures, tradition, and expect it's going to work in the modern world, you can't prove that those women are happy in that relationship. And it's just the way it is. Is the type of woman that you're dealing with, her background, especially when you're dealing with a woman in Western civilization. Remember, we're talking about women who live in Western civilization. But I want to ask you something. You were saying that you don't believe in the traditional marriage. Now, some people think that they can have a commitment and want a human being to be committed to them, be exclusive to them, but they don't want to live with the person. They say, you know what, I love this person, but I have a limit. I just don't want to live with this person. Some women say, I don't want to live with a man. I don't want this, but they want a person to be totally exclusive to them or totally be committed to them for the rest of their lives. What do you say about that?
Well, the thing is, you know what it is that you have to really go, basically figure out what you want and go after what you want, period. But the thing is, a lot of times when it comes to, like you were saying, some people want to be, not live with this person, but they want this person to be exclusive to them. And the thing is, you can have those things, but you have to put in the work to find those people who actually want that. See, a lot of times people say they want a certain thing, but they're scared to go out and actually find it because they think it's too hard. I'm never going to find a person who might want to be with me and not be married. But there's a lot of people who are out there who don't necessarily care about being married and would love to be with you. You know what I'm saying? If that's what you want. But the thing is, it's like first you got to define what you want and actually go out there and get it. But the thing is that you got to be brave enough and you got to be bold enough and you got to be honest enough with yourself to realize that that's what you want. You understand what I'm saying? But even when we were talking about marriage, the thing that I always tell people is that, you don't need a marriage to solidify what you mean to that other person. It's like, we put the marriage label on it. I understand there could be, quote unquote benefits as far as like taxes and whatever, all those other things, depending on if you're married in a certain country or state or whatever. But as far as like marriage being about love and being about being with someone, you can love and be with somebody technically without being married. But the thing is, people want the labels, because if I told somebody, hey, listen, I'm going to give you $100 million, but you can never call yourself rich and nobody else can call you rich. Most people will be like, fine, I don't care, give me $100 million. You understand? But if I tell someone, hey, you can be with this person for years and they're going to love you and be with you, but you can never say you're married or you can't get married, they're going to be like, no, why? I want to get married. You see what I'm saying? Because we're so attached to what this label means. You see what I'm saying? And that's what happens in society.
Well, the problem is that we're not defining.
Can I say
exactly? There you go.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
No,
it's just the label. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why.
Hold on, Mike. I've got a question for Mr. Locario.
Wow.
Did you say at the top of the show that you are married? Did you say at the top of the show you got married? What kind of marriage did you have?
What you said? What kind of marriage do I have?
Yeah, what kind of marriage do you have?
Oh yeah, I'm in an open marriage.
Oh, it's not a traditional marriage?
No.
Okay, it's an open marriage.
See, this is why. Is it right? Okay. See, this is what I'm saying. You see, I agree with you. I agree with a lot of things that you're saying. Mm-hmm. But see, this is where we come sticky and we get nasty because this is real. You're saying that you're saying the label of marriage. And when you label marriage, you're saying when we go downtown and we get that paper, that's with marriage. And I say, I say step away from that. I say, I agree with you. I set that aside. Marriage is a commitment between two people, right, that at least at that moment they forecast them being together for the rest of their lives. They don't attend, but hold up. So having said that, that is a marriage between the two people. Now, when you take that step, why would a person, and it goes back to my question to you, why would a person have that commitment and say, hold up, but I don't want to live in the same house with you. I want you to be committed. I want you to be, I want to be with you. I want to be exclusive. But I have this barrier that I don't want to live with you under the same roof. I want you to have my place and my place. Why do we have that? Because people are trying to live like that.
Right, because the thing is, people are different. You got to understand, like, a person might say, I love you and I want to be with you. Like, I want you to be my man. I want you to be my woman, right? But with that goes, even though you say that, you are still an individual with that person. So you might say, hey, listen, I don't like to, sleep in it. I like to have my own bed. I don't want to sleep in the same bed with you because I like to stretch out or whatever. And that's what I like to do. Now, if you want to be with me, and I want to be with you, you have to accept that's how I am, or else this isn't going to work. So if the person accepts that and they love them enough to accept that, then that could work. So that's the thing, because I have a slogan that I always talk about, and it's called "The Truth is Inside You." And basically what that means is that your truth and what's true to you and what's good for you, you already know. So you have to put that out there and show that to whoever you're dealing with, and they should be able to accept that if they want to be with you. You see what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, we're all living this life. We're all going to die one day, and you want to make sure that your life is fruitful and your life is something that you enjoy, and the people you spend with your life, or the time you spend with the people, those people accept and respect who you are. You see what I'm saying? Most people do that.
Right. But you don't think no question marks will come up to in your head if a person says, "I want this woman to be with me, but I don't want to live with her." You don't think no question marks may come up with the other side with that? But I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying and just on every day, somebody's gonna have some problems with that.
Right. Well,
because there's a contradiction there. It's saying you want me, but you can't tolerate living with me. There's something wrong with that. And
there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
He's changing what Earl is saying.
Hold on.
I see exactly what you're saying.
But it needs to be one at a time, or else we're going to mess up my broadcast, and then I have to meet people. Okay, so one at a time, okay? So, Mike, let him answer, because I think you've answered you've raised the question. I think we're all really aware of what you're saying, and I do want to dig a little deeper if Mr. Locario has time. But let him answer, and then we can move to the next point, right? So, Mr. Locario, what would you like to say?
Oh no, I was saying that what he was saying. I totally see exactly what he's saying. But you got to understand that your love for someone doesn't. Your love, or what you define as your love for this person, doesn't necessarily have to fit in a box of what other people might feel is love. So you might say, well, if I love somebody, or I love this woman or this man or whatever, I want it to be this way, and that's how I express my love, because I want them to be in the same house with me. I want to do this and do that, and that's fine for you, and that's perfect. But somebody else might say, you know what, I love this person, but also the way I like to do it is this, this, and this. So it goes back to the individual. It goes back to what they want to do. You see what I'm saying? And there's nothing really wrong with that. So the only thing is that if you see if you kind of question it, is more so you can ask that person, hey, why do you not want to live in the house with this person? You understand what I'm saying? And they might say, well, it's because of this, this, and this. You know what I mean? And if their answers don't really clash with them actually showing love or having love for this person, then it's okay. You know what I'm saying? But if they're like, hey, I don't want to sleep with them, I don't want to see them because of this, this, and this, and it actually shows through their, answers and through their actions that they're not really into this person, or they don't love this person, then that's a different story. You see what I'm saying? But it all goes back to the person, what they want to do, and what's their intentions. You see what I'm saying?
Hey, can I jump back in and just make this quick comment? I totally understand El. El is saying own who you are and try to link up as best as possible with somebody who is down for what you're down for.
Right.
What the other caller is trying to do is like the Fox News devil advocate confusion thing, change the subject to a different subject to a different subject. I understand totally, El, and I'm going to support the book. It's a good look.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So I got another 5 minutes I could be on. I got to run.
You got about 5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
If anybody else wants to ask a question, Mr. Locario has 5 minutes. Okay, so you have 5 minutes to call in. The number is 347-945-7556. We've been on for over an hour now, really just having a conversation about, a couple of the books. In particular, one book, It's Your Fault You're Single, written by Mr. Locario, who I find very interesting, because I think at the beginning of the show he said he was married. Now we work out that it's an open marriage. I don't know if that makes a difference to some of you listening. I don't know. I thought it was a traditional marriage, but it's not. So,
but see, they're saying I'm bringing confusion, and I'm applying things to the real world. Right. And the only thing I'm saying...
Mike, don't go there. Not yet.
Well,
hold it.
Okay, not yet. Okay, hold it.
All right.
I'll be quiet.
What I just want to do is summarize for people where we are right now. So, we've been talking about the book, It's Your Fault You're Single, and we talked about, men being chaste and women being more proactive in their pursuit of men. So if you missed the beginning of the show, this is what we've talked about in the last hour and a bit. So we've also talked about, the first date do's and don'ts. So some of the things you should do, some of the things you should not do, some of the things that will help you. So dressing more sexually, being responsive, staying in the moment, not demanding too much, not projecting too fast forward in your mind to what you want, but really trying to be interesting to your date and attractive to your date so that you get a second date. And then we also talked about, what if you have these dates, 1, 2, or 3, and this guy still isn't returning your call, and that happens to women. This book is actually aimed at women. The book, It's Your Fault You're Single. So we've been talking about, how men may perceive, the way that women behave when they're dating. It's been interesting, okay? So we've covered a bit of some of the chapters, and I want to just ask, I know in your last 5 minutes, if no one asks a question, then I just want you to tell us a little bit of a bit about, playing it cool, because that's something that you've got there. I do have someone, just to say to people, if you call in and you press 1, then I'll think your hand's up. All right, that means you want to ask a question. If you don't want to ask a question, then don't press 1 when you come in. Just listen, and then I'll understand that you don't necessarily want to ask a question. But there is a bit about playing it cool. One of the chapters in your book. But before we get to that, can you just explain the whole thing about the open marriage? Because you made this point of separating it from your normal relationships. You were dating.
Yes.
And then you move to this open situation. How does that work in reality for you? Because I'm sure people listening will be interested to learn more about that.
Right. Well, it's different for different people. So when you talk about open relationships, it's a different, like, you're going to probably get different answers from different people. But with my particular relationship, me and my girl, when we first met, I was dating a whole bunch of girls, she was dating a whole bunch of guys, and then we got together. And when we first got together, I told her, like, hey, I really want to, be with you, and she wanted to be with me, but I was like, I might want to still see other women on the side. And she was like, all right, whatever, cool, you know what I'm saying? And just do your thing, protect yourself and all this other stuff, right? So, over the years, what we, when we would communicate, and I would tell her, things that I desire. She told me things she desired. So I was saying, instead of being one of these couples where, we knew we weren't like on some like, I'm never going to want to have the feeling of being sexual with somebody else. We were honest with ourselves and said, we might want to be sexual with somebody else here and there from time to time. So we made that decision to say, okay, well, we love being with each other, but at the same time we're being realistic with ourselves, and we actually, made our relationship this way for us. You understand? Because I always tell people, your relationship is your relationship. So it's kind of like you're on an island, you're in your own space, so you make the rules in your relationship between you and the person you're with. You understand? So you don't have to technically go, according to the rules of what society said you're supposed to do. And the thing is, you have to do it, and make it work for you, because you're the ones who are in that relationship, and you know what each other like. You know what you like, you know what you want, you know what you don't like, you know what you can take, you know what you don't like. You know what I mean? So. And that comes with communication and being with your partner and being honest with your partner. So that's what, me and my wife did. We were very honest with each other, and we was like, this is what I have a problem with. This is what I don't have a problem with. This might make me feel a certain way. And we also still regroup depending on what the situation is. So, we have our own specific rules. We have our own thing that we do. You know what I'm saying? So that's how we get down.
So it works for you. So if you
right, and that's the most important part.
Yeah. So if you met someone that you liked, now outside of that arrangement, you would introduce that person to this lady, or how would it work?
Oh no, that's just the way our thing works is that we do our thing on our own time. So let's say if I'm like, somewhere in Chicago and I'm chilling and I meet some girl and I just want to, have sex with her for 5 minutes, then that, what I'm saying? Like, but if I'm with my wife, I'm with my wife and we have our time that we do our thing. So that's just our type of rule. You see what I'm saying? And vice versa for her. You see what I mean? So it's not like if she was, let's say if she was out with her friends and doing something, and then she, made out with some guy, I'm not going to, want to divorce her because she kissed some dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not how we roll. You see what I mean? So. Okay.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay. So, is it okay? Are you saying between the two of you that it's okay to sleep with other people as long as you don't get attached to that person? Because I think it's the attachment that people are afraid of when they say we don't want to open a relationship. Right.
Well, that's the thing. Again, like I was saying earlier, I don't approach my relationships with fear. You see what I'm saying? Because even if, let's say, if me and my wife had a quote-unquote traditional, monogamous relationship, my wife can go and sneak off and go have sex with some other guy, or, you know what I'm saying, and then start feeling these feelings or whatever it is. You see what I mean? So either way, it can happen. So the thing is, we are being more proactive, saying, well, how do you really feel about these situations? And then how we felt, lined up. So we said, okay, instead of having this be an issue later on, let's talk about it now, and let's talk about what we really want to, happen. So, like, let's say, for example, if, she was messing with another dude and then she felt a certain way about him, then we can have that discussion at that time. You see what I'm saying? When it comes up. But the thing is that I don't, like I said, earlier before, like, don't approach relationships with fear. You understand? Because if that was if it's the case where something was to happen where she wanted to be with some other dude or so on and so forth, that's just what it is, and that can happen in any relationship. You're not going to be able to protect yourself through monogamy or whatever it is from a person being who they want to be at whatever time it is. You see what I'm saying? This is why I say you got to enjoy the moment and moments you have with people. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, I get that's your view. Right. I get that's your view. And people share it or they don't share it, so I'm not judging you for it. I'm fine with that. I have a question, though, before you go, about the book. Just to say to people, there's about 35 minutes of the show left. If you want to call in, ask a question or a comment, you've probably got a couple of minutes, and then I know Mr. Locario is going to leave us. But yes. I've got a question for you about the book you wrote, How to Have Sex with Two Women in a Day. Is that in a day? Right.
Yeah,
how does that work? Quickly, just tell me that one.
Yeah, that book is, that book, of course, that book is for dudes, it's for guys, guys who are in that stage of where they want to go out and have, date and have sex with a lot of women. So, the book actually was created because a lot of people that, listen to my podcast and stuff were sending me email after email after email asking me, how do you have sex with multiple women? I want to have more sex. I want to have more sex. So then, I basically created, this is something that I used to do when I was younger, where I had a whole lot of women that I would date and see and have sex with. And I basically, in the book, teach the guys how to make that happen to increase, the number of women you can have sex with, the number of women you can go out with, and, also talk about, basically the right way to do it. And so you don't get anyone pregnant, really. You don't have no STDs and all this other craziness. You know what I'm saying? So, because the thing is, most guys, they go through a stage called the player stage where they just really want to go out and, get as many women as possible. So it's like this book is kind of teaching those guys, how to do it and, the right way to do it, how to do it more in a more efficient manner. You see what I'm saying? Okay.
So give us a couple of tips, right? How efficient can you be about getting what you want if you're a guy?
Right.
Because it's not only women that listen to my show. I get guys who listen to, and I'm sure the women will be going, "Oh my God!" That's why I'm not putting myself out there. Okay, but this will be for younger guys. For the women who are listening, this will be for younger. Avoid the younger guys. Okay. No, but this may be for younger guys. So people may need to hear that. So what are the tips? How do they do that? How do they get the two women a day?
The first thing I have the first chapter where I titled it, it's called Being the Man, and what that basically means is, you have to reprogram your mind to think and believe that you are the type of guy who can attract as many women as he wants. Because a lot of times what happens is guys they don't get women or they don't attract women because something inside them and their confidence is low. They don't feel like women like them. So then that comes out when they actually try to talk to women, even if they have, get the chance to even talk to women, or, because sometimes they'll be scared. They'll be nervous to approach girls, so then they don't. Or if they do approach them, they're nervous. They feel like, they can't get it. So then therefore they're not going to actually attract these girls. So I teach guys really, that's like really the first step. You have to kind of reprogram your mind to become that guy who knows what to do and knows how to do it and thinks and believes he can be that dude. And a lot of guys have trouble with that because, they have the insecurity going on and all other stuff. And, in most of the book, I kind of just teach, sort of basic things as far as like, how to introduce yourself, how to keep a conversation going, how to close a deal to get a woman's number. I teach them the easy ways to do that. I teach guys how to get women online. I teach guys how to build a team. So a team is basically a number of women to have,
Sir, remember, I ask you something. While in your open marriage, what if another man falls in love with your wife, or you fall in with another woman? Do you and your wife have a contract or an agreement if, you have sex or someone has sex with your wife and another man falls and get obsessed with your wife? Do you have rules and agreements? What are some of the rules in an open marriage?
Yeah, well, for us, it's not, it's not like you're, I'm dating or she's dating somebody else. You know what I'm saying? It's more so if something was to occur physically, you know what I'm saying? That's really it with us, because you have other people that, I have some good friends who are in an open marriage. They've been together for about like 25 years, and they have 3 kids. And with their open marriage or whatever, they actually have, the guy has a girlfriend and the wife has another boyfriend, so they do it differently. You know what I mean? So we don't really take it to that extent. But ours is just more so like if the situation occurs, just like if you're in any other relationship, if the situation occurs where you meet somebody or you're in a situation where something can go down, it's not off limits, or if it does happen, that's not a deal breaker in the relationship. Because what you got to understand, too, is that your relationship is not just about sex. You see what I'm saying? So the thing is that I'm not going to, be mad at my, wife for doing something sexual for 7 minutes with some other dude and think that's the end-all, be-all. You understand what I'm saying? Because our relationship is actually more than just a physical thing. You see what I mean? So it's not, and the actual bond and the strength that we have in our relationship, we've been together for almost 8 years now. You see what I'm saying? And that's most likely not going to turn around in most cases because of, me staring at some girl's booty or something. And you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not going to, 8 years of loving my wife is not going to happen. You see what I'm saying? In most cases. So that's the thing. Like, go ahead. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
When you said marriage is more of a physical thing, open marriage is saying, you know what, we're not going to let this guy come and stay with us, or I'm not going to let this woman come and live in our house. Right. But I can have sex with them, and that's our limit. So you're kind of saying an open marriage is about sex, because that's
no. I said no. You misinterpret what I said. I said that a marriage is not just about sex. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so
what
I'm saying is that
one.
You feel what I mean? So what I'm saying is that if and this what happens with a lot of monogamous relationships.
But an open marriage is right. But an open marriage is about sex, right?
No.
Open marriage.
No. Open marriage.
It has sex with other people.
No. The open marriage is that you're.
I think the point he's making, Mike, the point is that he made. No marriage is just about sex. Is that right?
Right. But the thing is,
marriage is just about what?
No. You have to understand this. Hold on. An open marriage or open relationship is not just about sex or whatever. The openness, what the open means is that you are open to be yourself. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's not about just sex. The sex is just the part that, the specific people who are in that situation might have as something extra that is being done. Because some people who are in open marriages, right, there's some open marriages where it's not even necessarily about sex. It can be about hanging out with this person to do this other thing. Just like some guys, they don't want their wives to have male friends, a person who's in an open marriage or whatever, they'll be like, yeah, you can have male friends. That's what their open marriage is about. So it's open enough for you to be who you're trying to be in that marriage with that person. You see what I'm saying?
Well, see, my wife can have male friends, her cousins. She can have co-workers. She can have her classmates. She can have male friends. But when we describe, and when I don't know, I'm kind of confused now. Every time when someone says an open marriage, I picture someone is able not just to have conversation or go to pool with another woman. They're able to have sex with that woman and the other spouse satisfied. That is the definition of an open marriage. So we're talking about an open marriage is someone able to have that sexual act with another person. That's defining it. That's all.
No. See, no, you're simplifying what an open marriage is. That's what I'm trying. See, it's not. But you're talking about content.
Well, what is?
It's not. It's not about the content.
Everything is about content.
No. Listen. You're talking about the specific act. What you're talking about the specific
aren't you
act
trying to change the content of marriage? Aren't you trying to change the content of marriage?
All right.
That you don't have to be
I'm gonna hold you guys there. I'm gonna hold you there because I don't think you're gonna agree. But I'm gonna give someone else a chance to come in. Okay.
All right, I have 2 minutes left, so I gotta run.
You have to run. Okay. Well, we'll continue the conversation in your absence. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. And real quick before I go, I just wanted to kind of answer the guy's question. What you were saying when you talk about an open marriage. It's the only reason why you're thinking it's just about sex is because when you talk about a monogamous marriage, right, it's always a big emphasis on this person cheating or that person cheating, and then it becomes about a sexual thing. But the underlying design of an open marriage is that you have your marriage open to whatever you might want to do depending on what you're in that marriage for. So traditionally, because you're comparing it to a monogamous marriage, some people might say, well, like he was saying earlier, somebody might want to sleep in another room or another house. That is another type of open marriage where I'm open to not have to sleep with my wife in this bed. She's open to go sleep over there. You see what I'm saying? So, and that has nothing to do with sex. You see what I mean? That's what I'm trying to explain to him. So the sex is the content. That's something else that can be in an open marriage, but it's not necessarily just about that. That's what I'm trying to say. But, but that's all I wanted to really, clear that up.
But that's cool. I just thank you for spending the longest 5 minutes ever.
Yes, I know, right? Yeah. But I definitely want to come back on. Let me know when you guys do it again. I'll come back on. That'll be great.
Good. We'll see you again. But thank you so much for the time you spent.
And thank you so much for having me. And also just want to tell people, go to MrLocario.com. That's MrLocario.com. And you can get all my books and DVDs and all that other good stuff. All right.
And on YouTube, you're on YouTube as well.
Yes, you can just type in Mr. Locario and some videos will pop up. Right.
Okay. Lovely. Thank you. You take care and have a good weekend.